Yeah, no, it's all right. Oh, no, it was. No, it's gone. I'm back. I'm back. Good morning, everybody. How are you all this morning? Good? Good. I'm on the mend. So apparently, rumours that I had a fall spread virally through the church. Yeah, they did. I am recovering um, and feeling good this morning. We are starting a new series as we lead into Christmas, and it's a series all about hope. All about hope. Um, we're not going to have time, obviously, to go through every verse line by line of that rather dense description of our resurrected bodies, but we're going to do a little tiny bit of myth busting, and we're just going to think about how important the resurrection of Jesus from the dead is to why we are all here today. It's one of the I was reading a book just this morning, and it was pointing out that we spend 40 days before Easter going through Lent and thinking about our sin and everything that we need to change in our lives. And then we get to Easter and we are in awe of what Jesus did on the cross to deal with our sin. And then we spend one day celebrating. 40 days mourning and one day celebrating the resurrection of Jesus. And he was arguing in this book, Tom Wright was arguing in this book, that I think we've got that the wrong way around. We've got that the wrong way around. If we spend 40 days preparing our hearts for what God has done for us in Jesus, we should spend 40 days afterwards absolutely celebrating what he has won for us when Jesus rose from the dead. And when we read the New Testament, all of the faith of the early believers is grounded in the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. That is what changed them from defeated, mourning, weeping men and women to triumphant, bold, and confident people who changed the world with a single message: Jesus rose from the dead. Why is that message so powerful? Why does Jesus' resurrection from the dead have such an impact on the world today? We're going to get to Paul in the end. We will, I promise. We're just going to start just briefly with the reading from Peter. Like, I've been doing my Bible reading plan that Sue challenged us all at the beginning of the year, and I'm just about to get into Revelation. But before we get into Revelation, I came across this morning in 1 Peter. And he writes at the beginning of his letter, "Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This inheritance is kept in heaven for you who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time." Did you hear how he started his letter? We have been given new birth into a living hope that we're going to ponder over the next month. A living hope through the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. Now, we often just kind of scan across that, don't we? Oh, yeah, it's the resurrection bit. Yeah. And yet for Peter, for the apostles in the New Testament, that little phrase is everywhere. Everywhere. You start every letter and it draws our attention to the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. Why is that? Why is that? So how many in this room believe that you will be resurrected? Okay. How many believe that you will go to heaven? Depends. It depends? Okay. Oh, no, we're not going to go there. There's so many places we could go there with what it depends on. But so we believe in the resurrection of the dead. We say it, don't we, in the Apostles' Creed? I believe in the resurrection of the dead. What does that actually mean in practice? I believe in the resurrection of the dead. When does the resurrection happen? When the trumpet sounds. When does the trumpet sound? Oh, this is 1 Corinthians 15. We're getting on topic. You just read it. That's right. Yeah. When does the trumpet sound? When Christ returns. So we're not going to be resurrected until Jesus comes back. Yeah? Everyone, it depends. It depends. If he comes back before morning tea, what will happen? We will meet him in the clouds, and he will be on his way where? He'll be on his way down, won't he? Where? So hang on a minute. When we're resurrected and we have new bodies, where do we live? If Jesus is coming from heaven down to earth and we meet him in the cloud, we're not there. It's not going to be a U-turn, is it? It's not going to be a U-turn. We don't then get our new bodies and then go up and live on clouds with harps. No offense, Judy. So we will get new bodies and we will live eternally with God on a new heaven and new earth. New heaven and a new earth, because heaven itself will descend. And so what characteristics do we need to have in these new bodies in order to live in this new heaven and new earth? So you're doing the sermon for me. I'm not even having to preach. You're running. You've done so well so far. What kind of bodies do we need? Will these bodies do the job? Oh, hang on a minute. That was very adamant. These bodies will not do the job. Why won't these bodies do the job? What's wrong with these bodies? Other than you have a fall and they break? I was actually pondering this morning whether I'm going to have that scar on my new body. Like Jesus had scars in his... We sang that in the song, didn't we? His nail-scarred hands will gather us into his arms. In fact, I was listening to all of the songs that we sang this morning and all of the theology that we just sing without thinking about it all the way through, and I'm going, oh, actually that's wrong. Oh, that's right, but I don't think everyone knows why that's right. That's accidentally right. There's a lot of theology we sing about the resurrection. When we run home into his everlasting arms, what picture do you have in your head when you're running home? Yes, but what do you picture in your head? You're singing words to God, declaring truths, and when you sing coming home into his everlasting arms, what do you actually... You must have some sort of mental... You just... Pardon? Gladly. Okay, so it's about emotion, or is it about running to a physical home, a house, a place, a much better home? A much better set of arms. Oh, okay. Okay. It's the home that the Lord has promised us. So is that home in heaven or on earth? Do you imagine yourself running home to heaven, or do you imagine yourself running home to a new cabin in the woods on Mount Duvel because it's beautiful up there? That's where you imagine that. Yeah. And so that's when the theology, the rubber of theology hits the road, doesn't it? Because when I read that, and I used to think, oh yeah, no, it's to heaven, it's to where God is, but no, I think what the writer of the song is actually doing is he's actually making a very important theological point, that when we are called home, we are called into a family. We are called into God's family. And so when we're running home into his everlasting arms, it's actually a picture of what God has done to save us and call us into his family, adopted, with all the rights and privileges and inheritance of his children. And in a couple of weeks, if Roger decides to, he might comment on what that looks like, because that'll be the third sermon in the series. Next week, Jeff is going to spend a little bit more time expounding what that home actually is, what the new heaven and the new earth. Oh, Judy's looking at him as if to say, is he really? Is that what he's been preparing all this time? Yep. So as I discovered, I listened to some of the sermons that I was away in New Zealand for. Roger and Jeff are at complete liberty to preach whatever they want, is what I discovered. You don't have to do 2 Samuel at all. You can do anything, and it's fantastic. But in the plan, we're going to look at the new heaven and new earth next week, and we're going to look at that new community and that dwelling with God that is our eternal hope the week after. But what happens when we die before the Lord returns? Oh, it's a bit quieter. So when we die before the Lord returns, we go straight to heaven, and then we wait for the second coming, where we are transformed. We put on a new body, fit for purpose, to dwell in a new heaven and a new earth. Is that what Nicole's nodding at the back? That's who agrees with that? As the moment you die, Roger agrees, Nicole agrees. Nicole is married to a very experienced pastor, so it's yeah. When we die, we step into eternity. So is that simultaneous with the return of Jesus? And so when we die, we are immediately reclothed, and it's like you die and then you blink and you're in your new heavenly body on a new earth. That's what you reckon? Oh, okay. Now we're getting into some theology. When we die, our spirit separates, or in the colloquial term, some people have termed that our soul. Our soul departs like a puff of wind out of our dying breath. And if we listen to the songs that we just sang, our eternal hope is that soul is held fast by Jesus until he comes. And according to Karen, who was also married to a very experienced pastor, oh no, I see what I've done there. I've painted myself into a corner. According to Karen, then that gap is infinitesimally small. In fact, so small that it is timeless and instantaneous. And there are many, many people who hold Karen's position. You are not alone. But there are equally many, many people who hold Nicole's position. And we could do the rest of the sermon explaining the basis of both of those positions. But what it has been termed is what's called the intermediate state. Has everyone heard that phrase before? Maybe. Peter's going, he's got theological training. What do you think the intermediate state is, Peter? The time between comings. Oh, okay. So that's actually, we haven't got time to go into all of the. Yeah, yes, and no, yes and no. But the intermediate state is how theologians have traditionally conceived of the time between our physical death as believers and the return of Jesus, where we are clothed with a body fit for life in heaven on earth, is the way to describe it. And it has been described as a place where our soul dwells with the Lord, awaiting his return. Be that the blink of an eye, or, what was it, 10,000 years in the first song and only 1,000 years in the second song. So it's actually, we're getting down to nothing in the end if we look at the progression in our songs that we sang. So we're starting to get onto a little bit of uncertain ground, aren't we? We all believe that we're going to be resurrected. We all believe that that will involve a body, yes? But we're not sure what kind of body. Does anyone have any ideas on what kind of body? A good one, like a better one than what we've got right now. Much better. And how is it much better? No sickness. No, well, Jesus, they're Jesus' scars. He chose to keep them. Okay, yeah. No sickness, no scars, no cake. No pain. No pain. Okay, I'm thinking, no cake? What kind of a world will that be without cake? Okay, so no sickness, no pain, no hurts. You'll be able to see, and that was in the song as well. Did you notice that? We will see him when he returns. So all of these images, they just are riddled through the New Testament. What else will characterize that body that we get that fits us for heaven on earth? It will be eternal. It will be imperishable. Okay? It will be, didn't Paul give us a list? Imperishable, not perishable. Glorious, not dishonorable. Powerful, not weak. Spiritual, not fleshly. Does that mean that our bodies are kind of, that they're kind of semi-ghost-like? Are we going to be spirit-like ghosts, like incorporeal? No, we're going to be solid, aren't we? But it's a different type of solidity, isn't it? Have we got any examples of what this body might be like? We will be made new. Jesus' body. Okay, so what do we know about Jesus' body? He could walk through walls. He ate fish. So it is a body that is like and unlike our current bodies. There are areas where there is continuity and there are areas where there is difference. And there has to be continuity and difference. That's what Paul is describing in that really complex section at the end, that there's all sorts of different types of bodies. You just got to look in the sky and see that God has clothed the heavens in different kinds of bodies. The point is, you foolish Corinthians, who don't actually believe that their dead body was going to be raised from the dead, they thought that was a bit crazy, and they were denying the resurrection of the body. And Paul's going, hang on, you throw away the resurrection of the body, you've thrown away the entire Christian faith. You've thrown everything away with that belief. So their understanding, a very Greek understanding of what the resurrection of the body meant, I guess they thought that the corpse is rotting in the ground and then somehow it gets all sewn back together again and we stand back up and it's all fixed and perfect again. He's saying, well, no. That's not what will happen. They're different kinds of bodies. They are fit for a different purpose. Life with God, transformed by the Spirit. Tom Wright talks about these bodies in a phrase he coins as transphysical. Transformed physical bodies. The presence of God's Spirit in our lives, of which we have just a down payment right now, each and every one of us, will be fully revealed when Jesus returns, and our bodies will become transphysical, able to appear in rooms. I don't know about walking through walls. No one actually saw Jesus emerge out of the wall. So, able to appear in a different way to what these physical bodies appear. Fully fit for purpose. But what does that mean in practice? The Corinthians were throwing away the resurrection of the body, and Paul was saying, well, you're throwing away Christianity. Would you agree with that assessment? Is the resurrection of the body so central to faith that if you don't believe that you'll be resurrected from the dead, you're not even a Christian anymore? That's how central it is. Or do you think it's more what I'm seeing the look on people's faces? This is all just theoretical hocus pocus discussion. It's all when we die, God will sort it out. Why are we focusing on this? And yet, Jean's smiling. Is that, yep. And yet Paul devoted the heart of his first letter, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, to destroying all of the Corinthian church's misconceptions about the nature of the resurrected body. Does it matter that much? And why does it matter that much? How would you answer someone who asked that question? It doesn't matter. You'd go back to the fundamentals. Yep. 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 Seen and believe. Yeah. Resurrection body. What's it going to be like? Yeah? Yeah? Yep. Yep. Yeah, I know. Well, Karen did that this morning for us, didn't she? She put the little dot and she wrapped it around the church. I thought you were going to actually steal Roger's sermon from 2 weeks about how it's actually a community and we're bound in. But yeah, so you're of the opinion that the details around the nature of the resurrection body are not as important as simply believing what God has said, that we will be raised from the dead. So the Apostles' Creed, I believe in the resurrection of the dead, let's stop there and be perfectly content with the mystery beyond that point. Who's in favour of that as a position for ADBC? Fantastic. You're not sure? You're just not going to put your hand up? Is it? No, not sure? If you did a survey of people, not just Christians, as to what happens when you die, what do you think the answer would be? Yep. Absolutely. So the Spirit on the cross, that's actually answering the question between Nicole and Karen as to the intermediate state. But what would people on the street, if you ask them what happens when you die, what do you think the answer would be today, right now? Nothing. Nothing. They would just say, so 26% say they are agnostic. They are agnostic. They just don't know. Okay? Which is actually where many of you just agreed we should be. We should just trust God and not worry too much about the detail. How many of you, and so how many would say nothing, that the world is material? No, I know. Okay. So 26% are agnostic. How many do you think would just say it's a material world? When you die, that's it. There is nothing beyond death whatsoever. You just cease to exist. What percentage? Worldwide, just thinking about the world right now, how many would just say you die and that was a good life and you're gone? 30-something%? Yeah. It's actually about 24 to 26% would just have a purely material view that when you die, that is it. So what does that leave? It doesn't leave 75%. Maths teacher, Barry. It leaves about 50% who believe that there is some sort of life after death. What's interesting, isn't it? And the variety in what they believe is immense, those 50%. Some believe in reincarnation. Some believe in the circle of life and coming back in another form. Some believe in, there's lots of different views. So the view that we are physically resurrected in a new body is actually the minority view on the planet. And it's part of the reason why it's really important that we stay in our creed, I believe in the resurrection of the dead. But it is time for morning tea. And I'm going to leave you with just a reading from the end of Psalm 33. When I find the Psalms. There we are. The eyes of the Lord, verse 18, are on those who fear him, on those whose hope is in his unfailing love, to deliver them from death, and keep them alive in famine. We wait in hope for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. In him our hearts rejoice, for we trust in his holy name. May your unfailing love be with us, Lord, even as we put our hope in you. And it is a hope that he will indeed hold us fast. And that is absolutely foundational to what we believe. We will have a new body, and he will hold us fast until he clothes us in that new body at the very end. Amen.